Well. Saturday, October 21st, noon Eastern Time. I'm Bob Harris. This is the Football Diehards YouTube channel, and it's time for our weekly Ask Me Anything live stream. It's your chance to grill me in advance of Sunday's Week 7 slate. In by-related absences, it's a apocalypse, people. Matchups, anticipated roles. I'm here for all that. Before we get to that, FootballDiehards.com is the website you want to go to. Appreciate you joining us here on the YouTube channel every Saturday at this time. Also on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on the Hot Seat live streams. If you missed this past week's, the delightful Nate Markham from Fantasy and Frames was on with me. We ran through many of the situations you'll be asking me about today, and they are copious. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell. I know many of you already have, but not all of you. If you haven't, I'm waiting. Okay, I'm not going to wait that long. I'm going to go ahead and hit the dislike button. If you want to dislike me, now you feel free. The seal has been broken there. Prefer the likes, but I'm here for all of it, people. Hope you're all having a great week. The usual drill here. Before I get to the questions, I just want to remind you, I'm here to discuss. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I think most of the questions are usually of the Am I Crazy 2 variety. With 6 teams on bye, nobody's crazy for anything, right? So if you haven't already got them out of your lineups, by the way, get them out of your lineups. They being the Bengals, Cowboys, Jets, Panthers, Texans, and Titans. Those teams are all on bye. No byes next week, people. So we get a little relief. Another week, another apocalypse, another 16 bye coming week 13. That's going to play havoc with our Scott Fishbowl rosters. Many of you out there were plotting this out in advance, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. Hello, Andrea. Hello, Dame. Hello, Royal Slade. Albert, good to see you all. Tony, Christian, Mike Arts, glad to see you. I see the questions piling up. Thank you, 513 Rookie. I am entirely worth the wait, according to the people who wait for me. And they often do wait. Appreciate everyone coming. Just a few things to get the ball rolling here before we get going. Christian McCaffrey still seems a little bit dicey. He and Deebo Samuel not practicing yet. I do think it's worth noting that McCaffrey told Kyle Shanahan, don't change the game plan thinking I'm not going to be there. Cam Inman from the Bay Area News Group, who covers the team on a daily basis, put out on Twitter yesterday that McCaffrey worked on the side, wasn't wearing a flak jacket, was running high knees, doing his usual kind of mobility work. I think the key word was no grimacing, so that's good news. Deshaun Watson could be back this week, people, so that's something worth watching in this game that we have coming up here. P.J. Walker was perfectly serviceable. I think they preferred Deshaun Watson. I probably would too. No Jimmy Garoppolo this week. Sounds like Brian Hoyer will get the start, which seems odd, right? Seems like, why wouldn't you go with the young guy? Hello, Mr. Scampers. Good to see you. Kevin Payne, Brian Larkin. Appreciate y'all showing up here. Again, we'll get to the questions momentarily on this Yard Guy Saturday. Let's see what else we got going on here. News-wise, just to get the ball rolling. Oh, no David Montgomery this week. Jahmyr Gibbs. Can I get a hallelujah? Looks like he will get the prime. Craig Reynolds also nicked up. Dan Campbell essentially came out and said, we're going to lean on Jahmyr Gibbs. Last time there was no David Montgomery. Week 3 of this season, Gibbs got 17 carries. Was pretty serviceable with it. Wasn't super high end. Hasn't shown the great, playmaking ability that attracted me to him. But hopefully he gets more opportunities and that starts to come on. Good reminder, NFL teams see things differently than we do. We view things through the prism of fantasy football. They view things through the prism of NFL football. And so something I'll be working on in future seasons for sure. Aaron Jones looks like he'll be back. Not sure about Daniel Jones. Seems a little iffy. I won't be surprised if we find out during the course of this very live stream that he's been ruled out. Has not been cleared for contact. So been working on a limited basis. The limitation being you can't hit him. That's probably not going to work, especially with the Giants' offensive line. They lost another piece yesterday. No surgery for Justin Fields, but no Justin Fields. Tyson Bagent will get the start. Obviously, no Anthony Richardson has decided to have surgery, so his season is over. He'll be ready for spring workouts, they say. No Kyron Williams this week. We'll sort through that Rams running back situation. I don't know if we'll do it correctly because I don't know if anyone knows what the correctly is. I will tell you this about the Rams situation. We've got Zach Evans, who I think most people, I've made some moves to acquire him. He's kind of like the player we're all expecting. But they do have Royce Freeman, according to people there on the scene. Freeman's getting more of the first-team reps. or appeared to be at least in the portions open to the media. They brought back Darrell Henderson Jr., who knows the offense, Myles Gaskin there. It's a mess. It's almost like the San Francisco backup. And if you have questions, we'll sort through those. Kyler Murray also is back to working out. Looks like a early November return is what the desired outcome is there for the Cardinals of Arizona. So we'll see how that goes. And the questions are piling up. I should probably get to them. Hi, Umberto. Nice to see you. John Fusek. Thank you for the hallelujah response. Golf Boy in the house as well. Oh, it's so great seeing everyone's scampers as well. All right. Robert Mitchell, as we're waiting. Wait no more. Let's break the seal. Bust it open. I see the likes coming in. I feel so good about myself now. No IPA today, says Mike Arts. That is like a beer type, people. He's going for a Kona Big Wave instead, since it's early. I'm guessing that's a lighter beverage. No Roschon now. Roschon Johnson is out along with Justin Fields. So he needs 2 running backs in a full-point PPR, Javonte versus the Packers, Deontay versus Vegas, or Zach Evans versus the Niners. I think Deontay Foreman's role seems the most certain. Javonte's is too, but it is a 3-man committee there. I mean, that's just where we're at, people. And we're going to have to get our head around, I believe. I want to say I saw some work on this from my friend Dwayne McFarland, who basically says, the Broncos using a dreaded 3-way running back committee. 2 healthy weeks since McLaughlin's expanded role. Williams has 11 and 10 attempts. McLaughlin 7 in each game. Samaje Perine has 3 and 0, so he's in there. But it's a bit of a mix. I think Foreman and Darrington Evans are obviously mixing in. And Zach Evans remains a mystery. If Scampers and Dame, if you're hearing anything locally that I didn't just kind of relay, please feel free to chime in here. But, I'm probably putting them in the order you have them in. Because you need to. Zach Evans remains a mystery. Like I said, I've invested in Zach Evans as if he's going to be the primary guy, mostly based on a single thing. Sean McVay saying, yeah, he got it last time, right? I don't know what's going to happen. I have a feeling Darrell Henderson probably is going to be more of a factor than I'd like him to be. But that's the issue here. That's why the first 2 are easier. They're not clear-cut roles. They're not well-defined roles. They're not reliable roles, but they are roles, and I don't know what Zach Evans is at all. I'm guessing completely on Zach Evans. I'm not guessing that Javonte and Deontay are going to be the primary pieces in mixed backfields. Mike Arts took the advice from Wednesday when Nate Markham and I were on. Again, go watch that. The replay's available. Took the advice and stashed Tyjae Spears. Do you think I should do the same with Singletary and drop who I don't play in my previous question? Yes and no. I mean, because I'm not playing Zach Evans doesn't mean I don't want to see what's going on with Zach Evans. I mean, I'm interested in that. So I mean, you're more likely going to drop Deontay. At some point, Roschon Johnson's going to be back or not, and we'll probably get some clarity on that in the next few days. I mean, this is his 2nd game missed with a concussion. Remember, he had a long turnaround even, included in his concussion. It happened in the Thursday night game. So missed the next game, now missing this game. So this is, it's a little concerning when players miss multiple games with a concussion. So I'd probably wait for a little resolution before I dropped any of these guys. And I want to see if I'm holding on to Zach Evans, what's in that super Easter egg. Maybe it'll be exciting. Kyron Williams' timetable is kind of vague as well. He's not on IR, so seems like they think he can be back within the 4-week window. Sounds like it will be multiple weeks. So there you go. We've talked it through. I've kind of planted my flag on Javonte and Deontay. I don't feel great about it. Sorry, not Javonte either. Yeah, I got you, Mike. I caught up on that. And I appreciate you listening to my take. It's very kind of all of you to come here. Picked up Pickett, but also available Tyrod Taylor, Tyson Bagent, Mac Jones, Brian Hoyer. I'm guessing you have the right guy. Washington. I do think, if I knew for sure Tyrod Taylor was playing, maybe he's worth a pickup, and I think that's the one here that I would say is in the mix. I don't have huge expectations for Bagent or Bagent, however you like to say it. And Mac Jones, I have pretty strong feelings against. Hoyer, is cagey veteran with great weapons, so there's something in that regard. But the matchup is something I'd want to hit up with against the Giant, against Washington, because it has been fortuitous. So I think that's fine. Right, yeah. So, and you see it, the Rams, it's easier to run against the Rams a little bit. So I'm with you. I think this would be a good speculative pickup, and I feel like maybe today we'll get some news. I have a feeling in the back of my mind, right, that this is going to be a situation where we get Daniel Jones ruled out. I mean, the fact that he has not been cleared, he's either going to get cleared or not get cleared. You would think at some point today. And so I would be watching the FootballDiehards.com website. I would be listening to the Football Diehards radio program on SiriusXM NFL and Fantasy Sports Radio from 8 to 11 tonight. I would be listening to the pregame show with Bob Harris and Jeff Manns. I told that Bob Harris is fantastic. Manns is good too. 11 to 1 on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio as well. And I'll pound my table for that. There. I haven't pounded my table enough, I feel like. My big virtual table. So yes, I think Christian S., you've got this figured out. Good morning, Tony. How are you? PPR, Zeke Elliott, Latavius Murray, or Justice Hill for an RB2 in a bye week mess? It's probably Justice Hill for me, but Latavius Murray should not be overlooked. I don't know that Zeke Elliott can be overlooked either, but I don't think that I will necessarily want to be too involved or too invested in that New England offense. It is easy to run against Buffalo, though, so there has been that. Everyone has done it. I think I'm going to go. The problem with Hill is, it's been a two-man committee, right? And maybe at some point it becomes a three-man mix. I think I'm not going to play Hill. Just kind of looking over the numbers here a little bit and the matchup numbers. I mean, Hill's at the top of the list. I have a good feeling about Murray and Elliott again. It's been easy to run against Buffalo. I'm probably playing Hill in this one. I feel disorganized. Why do I feel so disorganized? It's hard to run against Detroit, though. I'm still going Hill over Murray and Ezekiel Elliott, but it's not by a mile, right? I'm just double checking the rankings here. I think I'm doing it in that order. Hill, Murray, and Elliott. And just looking at the rankings, they're all in the same tier, essentially. So it seems like Hill's the guy that gets the touchdowns. I don't know if anyone is. And he maybe a little role in the passing game. Albert has a question. Brandon Ayuk, Christian Watson, Zay Flowers, pick 2 in a full PPR. I'm probably back in the Ayuk fold this week against the Minnesota defense for sure. And I'm going to play Christian Watson probably over Zay Flowers, but I don't know if there's a wrong answer on that one. Let me see how the algorithm sees them as opposed to how I see them. It's very close. It's like 25 and 27. The thing about Zay is the yards, the air yards have been going up every week. And I think that's a sign that the offense is progressing. Remember, they installed a new offense. It's been a little bit of a work in progress, obviously. I like that Watson upside, especially against Denver. So let's put it this way. Brandon Ayuk for sure. Zay Flowers for the higher floor. Christian Watson maybe a little more of a swing for the fence play, the big play threat. Joseph Cece, you're the man. Am I? 2 of Ramondre, Bijan, and Mustard in a 14-team league. I think pretty easy call for me, Bijan and Mostert. Ramondre, it was a little better last week. And again, the Buffalo matchup is not daunting, but I don't know how you sit Mustard. You said it. It's Mustard. I get it. It's a tough defense in Philly, and there's maybe some concern there. I'm not that concerned about this offense. Kevin Payne, after part of the same crowd. At tight end, Everett or Otten? I'm probably going Everett in this one. I don't dislike Otten, though. I think Otten's kind of been an overlooked guy. Yeah, definitely Everett in that one. Let me bring up some numbers here real quick because I'm starting to feel a little more organized. My numbers are coming more fluidly, people. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the Buccaneers offense is easy to lay back on. I think Orton would be a break glass in case of emergency. Everett would be just a in case of emergency. I'm not breaking any glass, but I'm playing. Otten's in case of emergency. Andrea needs one flex. Oh, I love Terry McLaurin this week. Oh, Devontae Smith is likable this week. Mostert is very likable. Andrea, why do you draft so good? This is a problem, people. When you draft this good, you have these kind of options. And I don't know that you could, like, I mean, I don't know if what kind of trade could you make that would, I mean, like your lineup already has got to be peak. I'm probably like I'm guessing your lineup. If these are your available options at flex, your lineup is phenomenal, right? So you're playing for upside. I probably think that's Mostert just based in the offense he plays in. I like Terry McLaurin a lot this week. So I mean, this is kind of a target of opportunity. Who do you love this week, right? Like I love that McLaurin matchup. I think it's amazing. Smith against Philly, against Miami. I mean, I think the problem with Philadelphia has been it's been one guy at a time, and mostly it's been AJ Brown recently. So I mean, I could divert away from him. I'm sitting here talking myself into Terry McLaurin because I love that matchup for him. But probably Mostert is the smartest play here for me. If I'm just going purely logically, it's Mostert, even with that matchup. I just feel like the Miami offense is so far ahead of everyone else. And I have an article up on the site that kind of lays out. I mean, it's the difference between them and the next highest producing offense is enormous. So I'm going to go that way, Andrea. And you know this. There's not a wrong answer for you. These are all, there's only going to be wrong outcomes, right? I mean, all these guys are perfectly suitable plays. All right, Steve Lindor, Bob, PPR League. I need one wide receiver and one flex. If Debo and DK are out, these are the choices. Romeo Doubs versus Denver. Sutton versus Green Bay. And Deonta Foreman at Vegas. Is that a late game too? I think the Raiders game is an early game, so that's kind of you're gonna have to Steve make that decision in advance. The Debo and DK's late afternoon kickoff, and obviously Debo's Monday night. So I don't know if any of those guys are going to get ruled out in advance. By the way, DK has been playing through these issues. This was the first week Pete Carroll basically said that he was a game time decision as opposed to he's going to play. So that is one worth watching. If I'm ranking these players beyond that, taking out the decision-making process, I'm ranking them Doubs, Foreman, Sutton. So I hope that helps you out. And, if you want to know why, Romeo Doubs, I'm expecting high volume in this. Sutton, he's kind of the piece of the Denver passing attack that I want to invest in. Don't really want to invest in the Denver passing attack. And Deonta Foreman is the low, is it's like the floor play, right? It seems like he would have the highest floor of all these guys, but I do like Doubs an awful lot this week. Umberto, Zach Moss or Josh Palmer in the flex full point PPR. I'd probably go ahead and play Palmer in this one. I think he's been a pretty viable piece in this offense. Zach Moss too. If I had to play Zach Moss, I'd be okay playing him. I'd be okay playing anyone on the Colts. Do I want to? Going against the Cleveland Browns defense that has been shut down, I don't want to. So there's my option. I think Palmer's a perfectly viable option in a high-end offense. My friend Dennis Roy was pointing out the Chiefs home road splits against Los Angeles, by the way. And it is pretty, once I looked at it, it is pretty shocking that, Mahomes and Travis Kelce have been pretty blah at home and off the charts good in Los Angeles. And this is in this is in LA. So could be a big game for Mahomes and Kelce in that one. Or it's the other way around. I'm sorry. It's at Kansas City. So maybe a little not as great. Tommy Franey needs 2 of 3. KJ Osborne, Curtis Samuel, and Joshua Palmer. Unfortunately, 6 teams are bought. Fortunately, though, Tommy, I think these are all reasonable choices. And for me, they're pretty good choices in Josh Palmer and Curtis Samuel. Samuel's been on a tear. think close to double-digit fantasy points. I want to say at least 14 fantasy points in each of the last 3 games. Has touchdown upside there, and I think Joshua Palmer is about the same, and KJ Osborne less so, especially given the matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. I think these are great options on Buy-Mageddon week. Tommy, you've done well. Congratulations to you. And play those latter 2 of those 3. Great options on a tough week. Chuck Bachman. Happy Saturday, Chuck. How are you? Half-point PPR, 1 for Flex. Madison versus the 49ers. Najee versus the Rams. Dubs versus the Broncos. Or Keontae Ingram versus the Seahawks. I'm going to take Najee as one of those. Well, I guess it's the only one. It's between Najee and Romeo Dubs. I'm probably playing Najee. I mean, you can run a little bit against the Rams. I mean, it's not ideal, right? Nothing about Najee has been ideal this year except a pretty good workload. Dubs would be the second one in that group. Keontae, I think, is the leading piece. This is the thing about these backfields, right? Let's talk about this briefly. These kind of murky backfields where you have multiple players and we're trying to decide between them. The Arizona backfield last week was a prime example. But there have been other ones. I mean, I think you could say the Colts backfield is a little bit of an example of this. The San Francisco backfield minus Christian McCaffrey were to play out that way this weekend is an example of that. The Los Angeles backfield is an example of this. They're a little murky, right? We mentioned Denver, right? A murky 3-man committee. That's even worse. But how I play these in general is, what does the team want to happen? I think we can go back to Cleveland early in the year when they lost Nick Chubb. They bring in Kareem Hunt. But, I mean, I think they told us what they wanted to have happen when they let Hunt go this summer and they liked Jerome Ford. I think they still like Jerome Ford. That doesn't mean Hunt can't be productive. Just like Keontae Ingram came in last week and moved back to the top of the depth chart ahead of Amari DiMercato, who had a good week the week before. Why did they do that? Well, because this decision was pre-made. It was Keontae Ingram was the guy all along until he got hurt. And so I think that's reasonable. I think the same in San Francisco. Like Jordan Mason's looked great, right? Maybe Elijah Mitchell would have looked greater had he added those roles, because that has been their desired play going back to last year. He's been ahead on the depth chart except when he's not available. So I tend to play things in that order on these backfields, right? So, not to spin totally off tangent there, Chuck, I'd go Najee over Dubs. It's probably closer than it should be. If you want, I think Dubs would be perfectly suitable. I'm just playing Najee because I think at least the workload is a little more certain there. But that's how I feel about those running backs. I tend to fall back on what I think the team's desired outcome is. And why do I think it's their desired outcome? Because that's how they had it before circumstances forced them to change it. Now the circumstances have resolved to some degree. It seems like they go back to their desired outcome. I know. Simple. Andrea wants to know, Luke Musgrave versus Denver or Logan Thomas versus the New York Giants? Logan Thomas for me, please. I mean, I'm not against Luke Musgrave. It's a good matchup for him. But Logan Thomas has been a pretty solid volume, especially in favorable matchups. He's done good. Historically, Denver's Patrick Surtain probably would shadow cover which of the Green Bay wide receivers. I think people are thinking that it's going to be Watson. Let me just go check and see if Gary Davenport chimed in on that one this week. I've not read his column. Shame on me to get the definitive word on that. He thinks Christian Watson. I think Christian Watson too. Jeremy Fowler is throwing that out there as well. Surtain, not as good as his rookie season, but he's very solid and consistent, as Gary notes. Completion percentage against him just over 60%. Passer rating against him just over 85%, despite that he faces the number one wideout on a weekly basis. So he is a problem for Watson. Combined with Jordan Love's struggles, Gary's contends that's a bit of a concern. And I would agree with that. So Dubs is I think that's why people have been leaning Dubs a little bit, is they think the coverage is going to be a little more favorable for him. Crazy to start. Here's a kind of a related question. Jason Wilson wants to know, crazy to start Christian Watson and Romeo Dubs at the same time against the Broncos. So I would want to sit one of those, right? I mean, I want to start multiple players. If I'm putting all my eggs in one basket, I want it to be a fantastic basket. Right now, the Green Bay basket is not fantastic. And I would probably parse it out. Like if I want a home run and if I need like a huge home run play, it might be Watson. Even in tough coverage, players can get up. But you saw last week, the 3 catches went for big yardage and almost had the score on the one long play. And Dubs is more like the solid, steady producer with a good target rate and probably good catch total. So I would probably take it like that. I would take a chance on Deontay Johnson coming back against the Rams, slightly over Gabe Davis. I have never been team Gabe Davis till last week, and he humbled me again and turned back into Gabe Davis. To be fair, it's been pretty good for Gabe Davis on the whole this year. So I don't want to slog on him too much because he's been more productive, more even production than I've seen. Last week was not fantastic. But I think, with a beat-up secondary, it's pretty close. I'm still leaning Johnson. Let me see what the algorithm thinks. Let's see if it's like as on board with as I am. Gabe. Yeah, it likes him a little more. So it's with me. It's with me. So I'm probably it's a slight lean though, right? Like so, you can kind of pick your poison. But I'm gonna go Deontay Johnson in this one. Over whichever of those ones you don't want to play, right? And wide open, I think, is your preference. Your preference to whether it's Dubs or Watson. I kind of laid out how I would view it, and so take your choice. I'm probably not playing both of those. And just based on what I said on the previous question, if you're worried about Pat Surtain, then it's understandable. Desperate this week is John Fusek. Desperate, he says. Need one wide receiver, one flex. Kendrick Bourne versus Buffalo. Hardman versus LA Chargers. Slayton versus Washington. Reynolds versus Baltimore. And Ertz versus Seattle. Ertz has been slipping quietly behind Trey McBride. It's interesting. And Joshua Dobbs' his kind of play has diminished a little bit. I'm probably going to go, and I'm not playing Hardman this week. I'm not looking for a breakout in his first week back. I mean, he is capable. He knows the offense. I think early on, the expectation is going to be return work. I'm probably playing Bourne and Reynolds in this one, and hoping that this is a big Bourne week. I know that seems like a weak hope, but I mean, I think Bourne is is kind of emerging as a playable asset in this offense. A huge week and a great matchup in week 1 against Philadelphia. What did he do? What was it last week? Let me look at something before I say something silly that I regret. Which is a change. Younger me would have just said stupid things to let it go. Yeah, it's a heavy target. I wanted to just double check the target numbers for last week. It was really good last week. 11 targets. It was pretty good the week before. It was 5 targets. He led the team. I'm going to go with Bourne here. I'm going to go with Bourne and Reynolds. Jason Wilson at a PPR. Do you feel better about Gabe Davis versus Patriots or DJ Moore versus Raiders? Generally speaking, I feel better about DJ Moore, right? So that would be in a vacuum. Obviously, we would all feel the same. The vacuum we're living in is one that Tyson Bagent is his quarterback. I've long contended in this very space since last May, March, early this year. I'm not going to let less than ideal quarterback situations scare me off of great wide receivers, right? Talented players. I feel like that's what you're doing in this case. I think DJ Moore's should be robust. The Raiders are not overly daunting. My concerns with the Raiders are more about Max Crosby and getting into Bage's face than it is Bage getting down the field. I'll just remind you, DJ Moore has cobbled together a really great career, super consistent, high-end production with a Carolina team that hasn't had a quarterback for the entirety of his time there, right? Or at least a high-end quarterback. So I'd probably take my chances with Moore in this one over Gabe Davis. I get it if you don't feel comfortable with Bagent. I'll see how far apart they are in the rankings just to DJ Moore. So we have DJ Moore as a pretty solid wide receiver 2. Gabe Davis is a mid to lower end wide receiver 3. I think that's how I play them as well. Good morning, Dominic Conti. Happy to see your happy face. My happy face? Oh, you're too kind. Kevin Payne has the question. PPR, Gibbs versus the Ravens. Ford versus the Colts. Lockett versus the Cardinals. I only get one? That's horrible. I'm going to play Gibbs. Look, I mean, it's been a disappointment, right? But don't let that disappointment keep you from looking at the circumstances that he faces right now, where there is no David Montgomery. Dan Campbell flat out said he's gonna get the bulk of the workload. He's gonna have to carry the load, I think was the exact quote. So I look back to last time, week 3 was the last time we saw no David Montgomery, and we saw Gibbs get 17 carries, a little less than 5 yards a carry. I'm hoping at some point we see the playmaking ability. I probably like them in the order you have them, Kevin, if that helps you out a little bit. I do like Lockett an awful lot against the Cardinals. He is off the injury report. I think Ford's a pretty good play, though, too, this week. Maybe even better play if there is no Kareem Hunt. He is questionable, but I think he will play. So I like him in the order you have him, and we'll go with that. My hunch on DK Metcalf playing, it says 5:13 rookie. It is a late afternoon kickoff. My hunch is he plays because he always does. And the over-under on unnecessary roughness set at 1, and I'm taking the over. No, I think he's going to make some points here. He's not changing his game, people, he says. In non-PPR, play it safe with DJ Moore or Jacoby Myers. I think you'd be playing it fairly safe with Jacoby Myers. I would probably do that. Slightly lean to Myers over Moore in this one. And we do think it's going to be Brian Hoyer. I would say that at either quarterback, though, with Aiden O'Connell as well. Slightly higher level of trust with that quarterback and that consistent workload that we've seen every week. He's been healthy and on the field. I'm fine with DJ Moore as well. They're very close. They're ranked within 4 of each other on our staff rankings. So I'd be fine with either. I'd slightly into Meyer for me. My hunch, though, is Metcalf plays. And maybe we'll get some more definitive information overnight and tomorrow. Check the FootballDiehards.com website. I always put things up overnight. By the way, we're like halfway through this thing, so let's just say, I'm Bob Harris, in case you forgot, or you didn't know. You just showed up and said, who the hell is this guy, and why is he telling me all these things? I'm telling you all these things because that's what I do. Every Saturday, right here at noon Eastern Time on the Football Diehards YouTube channel. I do it also on Wednesday nights with On the Hot Seat. We have guests every week. I do it on the radio. SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. 3 hours, 3 long hours on Monday and Thursday. Cover the game, get your questions in, get a lot of calls on Thursday nights. I have great guests throughout. Evan Tarciano comes on Monday nights and talks the waiver wire from the Football Diehards website. So great stuff from him, as always. You can catch me tonight on NFL and Fantasy Radio on SiriusXM. With Mike Dempsey from 8 to 11. We'll have Michael F. Florio from NFL Network on. We'll be covering the Eagles and the Dolphins as our game of the week. Alan Pupar and Dave Spadero covering each of those teams. We'll have Jamie Calandro from the site on. By the way, if you missed Jamie and Eric on the live stream last night, we do every Friday night or Saturday, depending on the week, a DFS live stream. They did a great job last night. Go check out the replay. Check out the replay of Wednesdays on the Hot Seat with Nate Markham as well. And otherwise, go to the Football Diehards website. Use the promo code Diehards to get 15% off a prorated pricing. So there. I bet you're glad you asked. Half point PPR, says Graham F. Running back 2, Jahmyr Gibbs versus Ravens, Ramondre versus Bills, and flex, Puka versus Steelers, and Deontay versus Rams. I'm taking Puka in that one. And, already playing Cup. It probably doesn't matter, but if you had concerns, you could, I think Deontay, I like Deontay probably as a right at the tail end of the wide receiver 2s. I like Puka at the front end of that, like maybe even a borderline 1, even playing with Cooper Kupp. So last week was a bit of an outlier, people. I know it wasn't a great outcome, but he still had like a 30% target share or something ridiculous like that. So I'm still playing him. And on the other one, I hate to be flag planting here, but I've been holding on to Gibbs, and I've been waiting for an opportunity like the opportunity he's going to get, and I'm hoping for the best on this one. I do think Ramondre versus the Bills is a great matchup. It just hasn't been a great offense. And you wonder if against the Ravens, who have not allowed great quarterback play, if they don't lean a little more heavily even on the run, the Detroit Lions, than we've seen up to this point, or that we've seen in some games. This week, pick one, Stafford or Howell. Also for defense, special teams, Rams versus Pittsburgh, Seahawks versus Arizona, Packers versus Denver. I'm going to probably play the Seahawks in this one against Arizona. Joshua Dobbs has been giving the ball up a little bit in recent weeks, and Seahawks have been getting after it. I'm playing Stafford over Howell. I get it. It's a great matchup for Howell. I don't know that it's a horrible matchup for Stafford, and it's such a pass-heavy offense. It's hard for me not to play him. John Fusek wants to know, playing Mostert already, do I play Moss versus Cleveland or Wilson Ahmed versus Philadelphia? Go with the two of the Miami running backs. I'd be tempted to do the latter, and, you know, if you have both of them, you kind of got the market cornered, right? You know, the only problem would be if Wilson is available and Ahmed too, then you have like a choice between. I'd probably go with Wilson, going back to my conversation about the team's desired outcome. I think that seems like a reasonable choice. I'd probably do that. Like, I don't have a ton of confidence in this Colts offense against Cleveland. If I don't have to invest in it, I'd probably rather not. Mr. Scamper's dropping the hammer. I love Bob. Like and subscribe? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, 513 Rookie. You're always too kind. Appreciate your patronage, friend. Dominic Conti. Bench one, PPR. Marquise Brown versus Seattle. Not benching him. Evans versus Atlanta. Probably not benching him. Jacoby Myers versus Bears. I don't want to bench him. Deontay Johnson versus Rams. I want to play him. Downs versus Cleveland. Look, I think Downs has been a great volume play, right? But, I mean, again, setting expectations for Cleveland. We just saw Brock Purdy have his worst game of the year against the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what I'm expecting from Gardner Minshew. This is not a Josh Downs situation. This is a Gardner Minshew situation for me. I have concerns. I probably just want to avoid that one, and I think that's an easy call for me, Dominic. I hope it is for you as well. Pat V, DJ Moore is still greater than Cortland Sutton this week. In my book, he is. Even though Hoyer is playing, how will Mayer do with him? Does Hoyer check down a lot? I think Hoyer checks down a fair amount, Robert. You know, like, I want to say, how many of his passes last week? Because he did come in. I don't have the play-by-play in front of me, and I'd be too long to get. But I think Mayer, I like the trend that we're seeing with him. It's been 2 weeks of heavier usage. This offense does seem to funnel through two guys up to this point. They've added a third. I think Mayer is a reasonable thought. Expecting Hoyer, who is a longtime veteran, to check down a fair amount. He doesn't seem to be overly aggressive. I mean, I think that's like Aiden O'Connell's, maybe less so. Maybe that's why Hoyer's in. I'm probably fine playing with him. Don't have the numbers in front of me, though, to give you the definitive answer on that, because I'd have to bring up the play-by-play and slow things down a little bit. But I do feel pretty comfortable with Mayer as a streaming option. Not a frontline play, but a streaming option. Hi, Jim. How are you? Dominic is in a 2-quarterback league. I'm playing Jackson as a quarterback 1. Would you go with Watson versus Indy if he plays? Or pick up Hoyer versus the Bears? If no Watson, which one, PJ Walker or Hoyer? Probably Hoyer versus the Bears over PJ, but I thought PJ acquitted himself well last week. More about the matchup. And I think I would play Jackson as my quarterback 1 no matter what, whether Watson goes or not. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate the kind words. Golf Boy wants to know, who has the better chance for 100-yard receiving and or touchdowns, Gabe Davis versus New England Patriots or Josh Palmer and KC? I think they're both in pretty good shape, right? I want to say, I feel like Palmer has the better chance, right? He's been the more consistent. I'll just say this: the algorithm, we currently rank them consecutively, right? The algorithm likes them. Gabe Davis, Josh Palmer, 32 and 33, both locked in wide receiver 3s. I think that's about the right range, And if we're betting on a touchdown, I guess I'd probably bet on Gabe Davis given the matchup. And the 100 yards, I think they're both probably in the equal footing based on the rankings. So a slight lean maybe to Gabe Davis with the touchdown equity, just a bigger play threat. Do you think Henry will get traded? If so, what would Spears' value be rest of season? if I don't know how easy it is to move a Derrick Henry, because he makes a significant amount of money. You have to pay for him. You have to pay him. But if he did move, I mean, Tyjae Spears would obviously move right up into solid running back 2 territory with running back 1 upside on the regular chalk. I think that's a fair assessment, right? So we'll see about Henry. We'll be watching the trades. Deadline's October 31st. We've heard this in the past about Henry. I think, to me, he's still the best player on that offense. Do they think it's time to tear down and rebuild? I mean, we have a new GM in there and Rand Carthon. So, I mean, maybe he sees things differently than it played out in the past. So I guess my baseline is no. I don't think these big name players tend to get traded, in general. I know Christian McCaffrey did. I think that was a slightly different situation. Younger player, different type of player. I don't know. I don't think Henry gets traded. That's my gut feeling. But if he does, man, Spears to the moon. Boom. Take off. Mr. Scampers, how are I leaning between Addison and Osborne versus San Francisco? If you had to start one of them, I bet you would start, but would you start the other over Algier at Tampa Bay and Warren at LA Rams? I would probably start Addison, and I would probably start either Algier and or Warren over Osborne. I think Addison is the desired play for me there. Right? It's a tough enough matchup. I don't want to play both of them, Scampers. I'm just double checking some things here before I decide I'm not totally stupid. Sometimes you go with your gut feeling, then you think, is my gut feeling right, or should I actually check some factual information? Yes, I think I should check some factual information. It's not a bad idea. It's never a bad idea. Equally targeted. Hey. I think Addison is the better player, right? I mean, it's just like, eyeball test wise, the workloads have been pretty even though, without Jefferson, right? So honestly, if I think the workloads are going to be pretty even, I prefer Addison. I think he's a better player. So I'm going to just go with that, matchup aside, that's where I'm at on him. I'm going to keep that way. I think Algier, I prefer slightly over Warren, but they're both reasonable plays. See if the algorithm agrees with me on that. And I think it does. Here. Yeah. Actually, it likes Warren a little better. It likes Warren a lot better. Addison and Warren, looking at the matchups. I'll go with that. John Fusak. Ingram versus Seattle. Logan Thomas versus New York Giants, or Elijah Mitchell versus Minnesota. I feel most comfortable with Logan Thomas's workload. I love the matchup. I think you're obviously taking your chances a little bit playing tight end. But also you're taking your chances in murky 3-man committees or unforeseen 3-man committees that might turn into a 2-man committee. Elijah Mitchell versus Minnesota is going to be a lot dependent on Christian McCaffrey, the outcome of the game. If the 49ers get up and McCaffrey does play, they would obviously pull him. Do they feel the need to get McCaffrey in there? Maybe they don't. Maybe they think they got this game in the bag. They're coming off a loss, though. So definitely want to get back on the winning track. And probably Ingram is probably the least appealing of these. I think Logan Thomas to play it safe for me. And that seems odd, saying playing a tight end over 2 running backs to play it safe. They're like, what world do we live in? Not okay with that. If Aaron Jones doesn't play, 513 rookie is screwed, sort of. Had Travis Etienne Thursday, that's a pretty good start. Without Montgomery or Pollard, I've had to drop one for a streamer. Non-PPR, stay put and hope Etienne scored enough to carry on. Yeah, I feel like Aaron Jones is going to play, though. Is that a late afternoon kickoff? That is a late afternoon kickoff. I don't really feel like I'd want to drop anybody. Pollard and Montgomery aren't making it through waivers, man. So I'd probably take my chances and hope Aaron Jones is going to play. I think he will. Watch the news updates and see. And see how close your game is. Maybe you need to look and see what what your score stands at as you go into that kickoff. And maybe, I'm guessing you can still make moves, people who are available. So try it like that. I'm hoping ETN scored enough to carry. And at least he had a good game, right? So that helps. Iron Eddie 1120 needs 2. Deontay at Rams, Downs versus Browns, Wandale versus Washington. I'm going Deontay and Wandale. Again, Downs' volume has been fantastic. If I can avoid the Browns, I'm avoiding the Browns. Is Marvin Mims worth the stash given that Judy might be traded? Yes. I'd have to drop a backup running back for him. Algier Gainwell? Yes. I'd probably drop him for Gainwell. Should I treat Kyler Murray or Deshaun Watson as my quarterback one when both are active? Probably will be Kyler Murray when both are active, JSC. That's my guess. It's going to be interesting because Kyler Murray, this is his first time not in an air raid or whatever they want to call that offense since high school, right? That's been his lane since high school. This is a new scheme. It's different. And it sounds like he's eager to test himself. But Watson's been fairly uneven, right? I think Nate Markham said something in the live stream on Wednesday night. You can go watch that replay. I recommend you do that. But like he said, someone was talking about the waiver wire. There's not going to be a quarterback on the waiver wire with the upside of Kyler Murray, and I think that's the same in comparison here with Watson. I don't think he has the same upside as Kyler Murray does. Mr. Scampers, who is your preferred Miami backup running back at Philadelphia? And where would you rank among Dillon, Denver, or Gus Edwards versus Detroit? My preferred backup is Jeff Wilson Jr., and I'm assuming he's going to be activated today. You know the drill. It has to be by 4 p.m. Eastern time for that to happen. Sounds like it's going to. They put Chris Brooks on IR and opened up a spot. I think Wilson is demonstrably better than Salvon Ahmed. Maybe they mix it up. That would be the only concern, Scampers. Since it's Wilson's first game back, do they dilute it and make it a 3-man mix, right? With Ahmed in the mix more. We saw it last week. It was Brooks and Ahmed were both in the mix. Maybe we see more of that in a not great matchup for runners. Although, again, I'm going to contend the Miami offense is not a traditional offense. They create different kinds of plays, not like hammering the ball up the middle of the field. They're getting their running backs, even on running plays, into open space to the degree they can. I don't like Gus Edwards versus Detroit. And Dillon has been a hot mess. I want to say Dillon's probably the smarter play, but I would probably go with Jeff Wilson Jr. if he's available and feel really stupid if it doesn't work out. Kyle Singer. Hey, man. First time here. Welcome to the party, my friend. Appreciate you coming. Should I trade Madison and Michael Thomas for Swift full PPR? Yes. I would do that trade. I want the upside as a running back one level play, and I think that's what you're getting. Did I skip someone's question? What the hell is going on here today? I'm getting there. So I picked up JSN off waivers. Do you think you'll see expanded role down the stretch? I do think that seems to be the direction it's taking, JSC. And talking to some people there in Seattle, they feel the same. They've been in a lot of 2 tight end personnel up to this point. We saw more 11 personnel the last game, and maybe we see more going forward. Pedro, my man. Thoughts on Chicago backfield moving forward, second half of the season, sitting on Khalil and Roshan. How optimistic should I be? Sounds like Khalil. I think as long as Herbert comes back, you should be relatively optimistic. I have concerns about Roshan right now. Assuming he gets cleared from the concussion protocol at some point in the near future, I feel pretty good about having both of those on your roster. What are my thoughts on starting 2 players from the same stream, such as Luke Musgrave and Dobbs? I can pivot to Jigba instead of Dobbs. Thoughts? I said it. I want to. If I'm putting my eggs in a basket, I want it to be a really good basket. The Green Bay basket has not been fantastic to this point. So I definitely prefer Dobbs to Jigba in a vacuum, right? It sounds like you have to play Luke Musgrave because he is your tight end. I'm probably playing both of them in this case because I want a little more evidence on Jackson Smith and Jigba. Mr. Scampers, any Kareem hunches at Indy, him or Ramondre? I don't have a good hunch. I wish he was, and I don't think so. I think the injury issue is not as bad as, like he missed a practice and he came back in limit. I think this sounded like more like a maintenance thing than anything on Kareem, and he seems like he's been coming on a little bit. I play Ramondre though, and I know I don't love Ramondre, but I love the matchup and I like what we've seen in the recent weeks. Kyle Singer loves my desk. I love my desk too, and I'm glad you found me. I'm happy you're here. Oh, liking and subscribing. This is like a total win. Kyle Singer, you're appreciated, sir. Kevin Payne, Bob, you're getting 2. Throwing Lockett in at Washington over Watson now. Thanks to the great feedback on here with matchup. Gibbs was already in, just like the reassurance not to overthink it all. Look, that's Kevin Payne knows why I'm here, right? And I say this all the time. If you're new to this thing, you need to realize this. I'm not telling you what to do. You need to decide what to do. I'm telling you what I do, why I do it, what my thoughts might be pertinent to it, and letting you sort it out, man. It's your team. You guys know this. You're the ones that are gonna be sitting there Monday, irritated at somebody. Don't be irritated at me. Be irritated at yourself. I can't, I'm not there. You can't vent at me. You can vent at yourself. Learn from the decisions. Remember and realize as you're punishing yourself that the best decisions don't always yield the best outcomes, right? It's football. It's an oblong spheroid. It bounces funny ways by design. The NFL is the most volatile week-to-week game. I just did a video on Sirius, asked me to do a video on my takeaways for week 6. You can watch that. Go check out my X at FootballDieHard. I retweeted that. But it's basically in a league that's designed for parity and surprise outcomes and volatility. That the things we're looking for are pretty simple. It's volume, right? And so a lot of the answers to my questions are volume. Damn it. Skip my question. Bob, have to drop out to go with family. I will check back later. Thanks regardless for the fun podcast. I'm sorry, Herman. I didn't see a question earlier. I feel horrible. I feel this big. Makes me pound my desk. Damn it. Thoughts on Pittsburgh being a legit top 10 defense rest of the year? Is Tampa defense for real? Yes, Tampa's defense is for real. Not as good against the run, better against the pass. Pittsburgh, with the pass, I don't know that they are a legit top 10 defense. They've got good disruptive playmakers. They've got guys that are capable of scoring. As a team defense, I guess yes. As an opponent of fantasy players, individual fantasy players, less so. Remy, need quarterback help. Stafford versus Pittsburgh. Love versus Denver. No, you do not need help. You need to play Stafford. I like Jordan Love just fine. It's just been a couple bad weeks. I'd like to see him get back on the lane. Stafford, the volume's going to be there, and he has great assets to work down the field. And the Pittsburgh, the thing that you can do against them is throw a little bit. What are your thoughts on Watson QB playing this week? If so, how well? It does seem like he's trending towards playing, and I hope he does. And I think he showed signs of life. I don't know that I'm trusting of him yet as a consistent, starter, but I'm hoping he turns into that, much like the Cleveland Browns are hoping he turns into that, right? We know the talent's there. We can go back to his time at Houston. He's like a top 5, that's where he can be if he's on point, right? With the right pieces around him. So if I have better options this week, I'm obviously playing them. I think I rank him in the middle or the upper half of the quarterback 2s, assuming he's going to play. What is this? Marvin Jones ruled out? What the hell happened here, people? Lions may be down a starting corner. Jerry Jacobs added the injury report. Marvin Jones ruled out for personal reasons. He is not traveling with the team. I don't think many of us were playing Marvin Jones Jr., but if you were, stop now. Standard League, Chuck Bachman says. McKinnon versus Vikings, or if he plays, Jeff Wilson if he plays versus Eagles, or Antonio Gibson versus Giants. I'd like to play Antonio Gibson in this one, but I wonder if the game script is going to work out for him. This might be a Brian Robinson Jr. game. I'm probably still playing Antonio Gibson. McKinnon I've been forced to play in a lot of leagues, and it's been not great. Jeff Wilson, I don't know that I need to force him into the lineup this week. I'd probably go Gibson in this one. We'll get through. We got about 5-6 minutes left, so I'll try to get through the rest of these questions before we're all done. I appreciate y'all coming. This has been fantastic. It's always a great time. Great to interact. Great for me to stop and slow down and think through some of the issues I've been reporting on all week. and kind of see where I stand. And I'll do the same thing again tonight for 3 hours on SiriusXM NFL Radio. So I hope you listen there. I have to play Sam Howell this week and against the Giants. I have Fields thoughts, and would you play him again next week versus Philly? Yes and yes. I mean, I'm fine playing Howell. I think they're not afraid to throw the ball, Pedro. And against Philly, you can't throw the ball. Pedro Resto, would you drop Khalil or Roshan for Mims? I would not. I probably would not. Like, Sean Payton said something this week. Well, I guess if you're playing a speculative move and thinking, like, let's do this in advance of a trade, then I would drop Roshan if I had to drop one of the two, if I felt like I needed to do this. But, I mean, it's a totally speculative play, and you're hoping that somebody gets traded. A lot of rumors about Jerry Jeudy, so we'll see about that. A lot of back and forth, not clear if teams value him the same way that he values him, so I don't know. But if that's the speculative play, if you're really looking to do that and you need to drop one, it'd be Roshan for me. You know Khalil's going to be out for a set amount of time, and it's not clear he'll be back, so I'm assuming he will be. But there is that possibility. Also, Roshan has not been cleared yet for a second week from concussion, so I'm concerned there. Kevin O'Brien, full PPR, best two, flex. Wells. Z Wells. It's not coming to me. Jalen Warren, Kareem Hunt, or Josh and Palmer. I don't know who Wells is. Yeah, can't decipher that one, Kevin. So among the other three, I like them in the order you have them. Mark Spafford, am I crazy for playing Henderson over Gus Edwards? I think it's a total reachy thing. Let's see if Henderson's going to be activated. If he's activated today, if you think that's the case, and I don't disagree with you, Mark. I think pass protection is going to be the determining factor here. And I think it's a fair argument to say that Henderson is probably better at that and that he has some, or at least has pass chemistry with Stafford. Has he been able to reestablish it? But you're not playing crazy for playing anyone over Gus Edwards right now. I mean, he's a, two-man committee. He's a 3 at best. I don't know what kind of upside I'm expecting for him because Justice Hill seems to be getting the meteor portions. So, I mean, I see where you're coming. I don't know that it's crazy. I think it's pretty aggressive. Let's put it that way. It is aggressive. Make sure I'm not missing some news here that would be suitable, and I'm not. Best ball, running back 2. Best running back 2. Brian Robinson or Gibbs at Baltimore. Probably the safer play has been, I think Brian Robinson has the better matchup. I'm probably going to lean that way, and I want to play Gibbs every time I get a chance, but in this case, I'm probably not. Slight lean to Robinson. You're welcome, Remy. I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Scampers. We don't know nothing about nothing. That is the beauty of it. That's the fun of this whole damn thing, right? Is we get to sit here and kind of work through our own, tell ourselves, I like to say, our happy stories or our sad stories that we need to get ourselves the courage to play or not play players we think we should or shouldn't. So, Bob, Watson at quarterback this week or Hoyer? I mean, if Watson's playing, I'd probably go Watson, Dominic, if he's playing. Mayer, Logan Thomas, Kincaid, pick one for rest of the season. And Sunday, Logan Thomas for me. And it would be Mayer next. Thank you. All right. Looks like we've gone through all the questions. Z Wells. I'm not sure who Z Wells is either. I'm confused. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Scampers. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We like to do this every week. We'd love to have you every week. I'll be back next Saturday at noon. I'll be here on Wednesday also on the hot seat with a fantastic guest. I don't know who it is yet. Tonight on SiriusXM NFL and Fantasy Sports Radio, Michael F. Florio from NFL Network will be joining me. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you coming. We'll be covering the Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles closely tomorrow on the pregame show. The Ravens, Browns, Commanders, among the teams we'll be visiting with. So check me and Jeff Manns out. Go to the website. Lots of information available to you, including great columns from everybody. Thanks, Dame. Appreciate you. You too, Dominic. Great columns from John Laub, the Gridiron Scholar, Jamie Calandro, myself, Gary Davenport, Brad Cruz, the usual assortment of waiver wire materials early in the week. Check it all out. Evan Tarchiano, Joe Colana, Matthew Sharon. Tons of good stuff, people. I appreciate you so much. Appreciate you choosing to spend some time with me. I love spending the time with you. We will see you here Wednesday night.